The saga of the wild horse in the American West. They say America runs on freedom, that it was built by pioneers and fueled by dreams. But if you really want to understand the soul of this country, don't look to the flag, the Constitution, or the marble monuments. Look to the wild horse, the Mustang. It's the sound of thunder across the desert floor. It's defiance with hooves. It's the heartbeat of a land that refuses to be tamed. And in December of 1998, someone tried to silence it. Not with fences, with bullets. 34 wild horses slaughtered in cold blood in the mountains outside Reno, Nevada. Gunned down and left to die in the very dust they once ruled. The headlines were brief. The nation didn't blink. But I couldn't look away. Because this was more than a crime. It was a mirror held up to the darkest corners of our American identity. And it wasn't the first time the desert had spoken to me. Years earlier, I had wandered into a bar off Highway 62 after hiking through Joshua Tree. The twilight air was thick with the smell of creosote and distant lightning. Inside, locals nursed their beers. A football game buzzed on TV. Someone muttered a story. 2 young girls, murdered by a Marine. Sliced up. Brutal. Who were they? I asked. Just some trash, came the reply. That single sentence set me on a years-long journey to uncover a brutal truth, one that became my book, 29 Palms. A deep dive into a remote Marine base, a culture of silence, and the kind of violence that festers when no one's watching. But before I could finish that story, the horses called. It was a few days after Christmas. I picked up a local paper and read that 6 wild horses had been found dead, shot. The next day, the number climbed to 20, then 34. By New Year's, while most people were sipping champagne and watching fireworks, the high desert was soaked with blood. And the suspects, 3 men, 2 of them Marines, 1 stationed at 29 Palms. It was a sickening echo. But this time, the victims couldn't speak. They couldn't testify. They couldn't fight back. All they had was their story, and it had been buried beneath a culture that's always tried to erase them. I had to dig it up. The wild horse is not just an animal. It's a symbol so deeply woven into our mythology that we barely recognize it anymore. It was the Mustang, not the eagle, that carried us into battle, pulled us across the plains, and refused to be tamed. It was the Mustang that roamed free long before there were borders, long before there were states, long before there was a United States. We owe them everything, but we treat them like nothing. Let me be blunt. The history of America's wild horses is not a story of freedom. It's a story of betrayal. They came with the Spanish in the 1500s, escaped, bred, thrived, multiplied. By the 1800s, they numbered in the millions. Native tribes revered them. Settlers depended on them. Cowboys rode them. And yet, as soon as the land was fenced, the Mustang became a threat to ranchers, to land developers, to anyone who couldn't control them. They were chased down, rounded up, shot from helicopters, driven into traps, branded, starved, sold for dog food and glue. Yes, dog food, glue. In 1971, after decades of abuse, Congress finally passed the Wild Free Roaming Horses and Burros Act. It was supposed to be a turning point, a promise to protect these animals as living symbols of the historic and pioneer spirit of the West. But a promise means nothing without enforcement. And in the decades since, the system has been gutted. Corruption, underfunding, and political pressure have turned protection into paperwork. Bureaucracy became the new bullet. Reno was just the mask slipping. And I had to ask myself, why? Why the hate? Why the rage? Why the need to annihilate something that symbolizes the very thing we claim to cherish? Because here's the truth. America loves freedom in theory, but in practice, we want it fenced, controlled, branded, taxed, tamed. We're terrified of anything that reminds us of our own wildness, the parts of ourselves we can't control. The Mustang isn't just a horse, it's a mirror, and when we shoot it, we're trying to kill something inside ourselves. It's easy to look away, easier still to pretend it never happened, but the dead don't forget, and neither should we. I went deep into archives, old trail diaries, oral histories. I followed hoofprints through centuries, through warfields, cattle drives, prison camps. The horse was always there, watching, carrying, dying, and yes, defying. Melville knew it. In Moby Dick, he wrote not just of a whale, but of a white stallion that haunted the prairies. A magnificent milk-white charger with the dignity of 1,000 monarchs, his mane a flashing cascade, his tail a curving comet, resplendent beyond gold. That wasn't fantasy, that was memory, that was reverence, and we've lost it. Today, tens of thousands of wild horses are held in government holding pens, out of sight, out of mind. They're auctioned off in the name of population control, shipped to slaughter across borders, or left to starve in the name of land management. Reno was not an anomaly, it was a symptom. And the disease? A culture that only values what it can own. The Mustang refuses ownership. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't follow orders. It just runs. And that terrifies us, because we've forgotten how to run ourselves. We've fenced our lives with deadlines and mortgages and 9-to-5s. We've traded wildness for Wi-Fi. And when we see that raw, untamed spirit still alive out there, hooves pounding the earth, manes lashing the wind, we feel something stir, something ancient, and we kill it. But the spirit of the Mustang doesn't die. Not really. It lingers, in stories, in legends, in every child who dreams of galloping over hills, in every broken soul that longs to be whole again, and in every whistle of wind across the open plains. If you listen, really listen, you'll still hear it. That thunder, that defiance, that freedom. So no, I didn't set out to write about horses. I was chasing murder, memory, and Marines. But the Mustang found me, and I couldn't walk away. Because the Mustang is not just a story. It is the story of us, of what we lost, and of what we might still find, if we have the courage to let something, anything, run free again.